Yesterday, everybody knows the date, was High Year. What's High Year? Some people celebrate and say Hallel, and some people fast that day. Now, what is the approach of Rabbi Gedalya Nesiei Chabad L'Deroi Sayhem, and what is the Rebbe's Shita in this whole Zionist movement, the whole Medina Yisrael? How is the look, the approach of the Rebbe, of the Rabbayim on this Inyan? In the end, we're going to touch a mashi on the votes which goes now through the World Zionist organization, which some people say you should vote, some people shouldn't vote. Touch on it on a job, but basically, first I want to make a clarity, which is a very, very important topic, because a lot by us Anash totally got it wrong, and mitzad some things which they saw the Rebbe did and said, they got it wrong, the whole shit, and they took niks and they went way, way, way far. Heppich das von dem Rebbe. Was the Rebbe b'shatoi vod wen rausgegangen bechere bewechenis. So therefore, I want to make clarity a little bit in this Nekida. We see by the Rebbe from one side, we see radical, kitzonish sayings against the Zionist movement. Other side, we see the Rebbe supported that you shouldn't give, not support, the Rebbe fought that you shouldn't give back shtochim. The Rebbe was mekarev and took for yechidas, or even other times people which were involved in the government of Israel. The Rebbe was that if a person does not learn in yeshiva, a married person which does not learn in yeshiva should join the army if it's in a matzav that he could it's kosher for Yiddishkeit. If it's in a mesgeres, which is Yiddishkeit, then if you don't learn, then you should go there. The Rebbe holds that a bocher tunish guy in military. So there's a big, a big, so to speak. If you look at it, it's a steers. What do we know about what the Rebbe's saying in the Rebbe's Nekida, this Nekida of the Zionist movement? Now, we all know the famous, the Rebbe Reshab was I don't know how to say it, but Misnagid Charif. Huh? No, a Misnagid Charif. Is worse than Satmar. Strongly opposed the Zionist movement, even if it would have been a frum government. Very sharp, and it's printed. This whole thing is printed. Everybody can take it out in Kinter Semayin, in the Hagdum of Kinter Semayin. There's a very sharp letters, and the Rebbe Reshab's movement, Shitta. There was once a Yid. His name was Rabbi Gedalya Oberlander. A lot of people heard of him. He was the maskir for the Aida Achraydes, and he used to come to America for money and other things, and he went into Yechidus to the Rebbe more than once, and he once asked the Rebbe, why did the Rebbe ban the Rebbe Reshab's Shitta? Why did the Rebbe ban? The Rebbe Reshab was a big knoi, and the Rebbe is not a big knoi. And the Rebbe answered him, this is a story which I heard from Rabbi Chaim Shulam Dash. I heard it from other sources also, but I heard it from Rabbi Chaim Shulam Dash. That's a very real source, because he knew Yosef L'Shaim again on a personal level. And the Rebbe asked him, what are you talking about? We just recently printed over the Kinter Semayin with the Hagduma, and all the people should know and understand that this whole shit is Achshav, the same as it was once. What are you talking about? Not only that, there's such thing as the Gimel Shvius, Shula Shvius. Now, if you take the Vayol Moshe, and you see a lot of the first part, the third part of the Sefer is regarding the Shula Shvius. Now, Sat Baruf writes The Sholosh Shvi is lav dafka is halacha. It's a Inyan, a rochtige Inyan, and it's very harsh, but it's nicht kein halacha psike. In the Rebbeim, the Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe Shmus Eiden, and the Rebbe holds halacha, it's a mechayev. The Gimel Shvi is a mechayev. The mechloikus from Gedolya Poskim, if it's a mechayev or not. There was the Shem Shmiel, there was a lot of other Gedolya Poskim which hold it's not mechayev, bechlal. First of all, some say it's only it's a shvia. The whole Shira Shirim, Mishbati Eschem is only, the Rambam says, a drish. But even the poskim which say it is a lochadig as a concept, there's a lot of poskim which hold that the three shvias go together. The first one of the shvias is Klal Yisrael should not be moirid be'imas and go to Yisrael against the wishes of the nations. Then there's another shvuah for the nations that they shouldn't suppress Klal Yisrael very harsh. So a lot of poskim hold that it's connected, these three. If the goyim are suppressing Klal Yisrael very hard, then the other shvi is also null and void. The Rebbe, Rabbaim, Rabbi Sani did not hold like that. The whole that shvi is machayev, and it is also to have a Medina, a Yiddish Medina, even when it is from, everything is from. It's not secular. From Zionism, Hadusis, Mizrachist, whatever it should be, it's also Batachlas HaYichid. Not only that, the Rebbe went a step further, and Tov Shemim Aleph, the Rebbe met with the Sadigere Rebbe. And the Sadigere Rebbe said for the Rebbe that basically there's no such thing as the Sholosh Shvi is out of this today's day, because all the nations, the United Nations, agreed that Klal Yisrael may have, that the Eden can have a Medina. So there's no such thing as Sholosh Shvi, which a lot of contemporary poskim hold like that. And the Rebbe answered him, if this is your whole shit that it's not a problem to Sholosh Shvi, because the nations agree that you should have a nation, then tomorrow the United Nations is going to vote against this whole Jewish state, and then you're back to square one. So the Rebbe said, no. The only reason why I hold that today's day Medina Yisrael has to exist is als Kich Nefesh. Kich Nefesh, since Klal Yisrael is over there, you cannot just say, like some Kitzoinim wants to say, you just give back the keys, and the Varkazeh. You give back the keys, you have October 7. We know also that B'shas v'si geworden Medina Yisrael, 1948, yeah, it's published in printed in Yemai Melech. The day which was the vote was that it should become a Jewish state. I don't think I remember who the guys. One of the Chassidim, all the Chassidim, saw the Rebbe was zikocht when around 770. Zikocht, is zikocht, hyped, not hyped. What? Worked up. So he went over to the Rebbe. Why are you so zikocht? Why? He said, Baruch Hashem. We got the votes. So the Rebbe says, on this we waited 2,000 years. This is the thing which we saw for 2,000 years to get this. This is what we have. This is it. Okay, but Rebbe is given a minus. It wasn't a plus. It was a big simcha. The people were dancing in the streets and saying Hallel. Rebbe is great. Do something as we know the famous letter which the Rebbe wrote for the Nusi of Medina Yisrael Ben Tzvi. And the Rebbe did not title him Nusi Medina Yisrael. And he wrote to the Rebbe, Hayitochen, my high, and the famous answer is the Rebbe answered him, that's the language. From when I went to Cheder, and even before that, I started to fantasizing and imagining, that's the real word, imagining how the Gila Asida is going to be. Gila Achran, which is going to be such a Gila, we understand, if we're going to say it was worth the 2,000 years being in exile in Golas, and we're going to understand the whole Golas, and over there then it's going to be a Melech Yisrael, which was going to be Nusi Yisrael, and therefore, when I give a look at Medina Yisrael, I don't have the heart, and I cannot bring myself to write a new Nusi, because that's not a Nusi. And he wrote it him in the face. Which you are still in Golas and we're still suffering, I cannot do it. I'm sorry. So we get a bit of the picture of the Rebbe Shitta. The Rebbe never said on Eretz Yisrael, Medina Yisrael. This doesn't exist. Medina Yisrael, this word wasn't in the Rebbe's mouth. It was Eretz HaKodesh, Eretz Yisrael. And they asked the Rebbe why. And the Rebbe has a letter. Again, everything is documented. There was a letter with the Rebbe shop. That's not the name. Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Yisrael, was Rebbe schon gegeben. And, you know, Dranschka Kop. Never. Medina Yisrael is nicht gewesen, existiert nicht. Not only that, there was, we all know, Lubavitch Yeshiva was a lot of years we did not have the Nasis of the Rebbe. The Rebbe had the Nasis of Yeshiva, Lubavitch Yeshiva, but there was a dinner which, in order to how do you say, one of the Nadvunam, to satisfy him, and he demanded he should sing the Atikva by the dinner, yeah. And once the Rebbe heard that there was sung by the Atikva by the dinner, the Rebbe says, I'm sorry, I don't want to have a shaykh with this yeshiva. The Rebbe took off the Nasiyas for years. It took years, they should beg and beg and beg, and the Rebbe with conditions, they put it back. So again, you know, the Rebbe was radical against the Zionist movement. Radical. Nicht normal.
Bringing Israel politics here.
There's no politics.
You know, the Friedrich Rebbe once said, the Rebbe was a big supporter of Tir Karta. Let me bring it to your attention. Big supporter. How do I know? I know it because I have the letters of Rebbe Riel Zimmer. Riel Zimmer was the Kanui number one. And the Rebbe was a big supporter. Not only the Rebbe was a big supporter, he wrote a whole cipher against Medina Yisrael, which is called, it's in 3 languages. For Hebrew it's called the Yehadas VaMedina. And in Yiddish it's called the Teure in Yidentum, the Medina and the Yidentum. And there's also in English. Who's Gimel Shoynes. And who sponsored the publication of it? Who sponsored it? Who paid for it? In the Rebbe. He paid for it. And not only that, the Rebbe wrote for him, before he was finished with the book, the Rebbe wrote over and said, Rebbe Riel, it's not sharp enough. But I'm not going to make you write it over because it's wichtig, you should publish it. The Rebbe said, it's not sharp enough. And believe me, I know this book, I have it. It's sharp, Shnaimun. So this Riel Zimmer writes, he had Yechidus with the Rebbe, and he writes letters to Rebbe Tuvi Bloy, what he had with Yechidus, fascinating Yechidus. Some are planted, but it was edited by the Bloy family. But I have the original. I made the Chassidische Gnaiva years ago, and the family, I don't know. He wrote it to Tuvi Bloy. He wrote, Tuvi is his Talmud. He was Makar of Tuvi to Chabad. He was a radical against Zionist movement, and he came to the Rebbe's Gdingen. And then he went out and said, wow, I never saw a person which he looked such a big Zionist and such a big Kanui, and became a Lubavitcher. And he was the first person who translated Tanya in Yiddish. He knew 17 languages. He was a translator in the United Nations, for the United Nations. So he writes that the Rebbe said, the Tir Karta I like. And I support that because they're real. They don't take anything from the Medina, they don't take any money, they don't take personal. But the people who are Kanuam, and when it comes to their personal lives, they take all kind of money. So he writes, the Rebbe was against, he had a lot of nice, cute things which he writes, the guy was the Rebbe. But I could put him, at least you see the mind of the Rebbe. Shitfas. You should go into the government, the Rebbe was against it.
So the current Tir Karta is they already.
That's way off because now they're going with the Arab. This Avada. We're talking about the Bamlam Bloy, which the Rebbe was substantial. So therefore, first of all, is Hepach Rutzen in Kavuna from the Rebbe Bechlal. Bechlal, as we should take part in anything which has to do with politics and supporting any. So therefore, the whole thing of taking Ben Gvir should come in 770 on the Rebbe stage, should give a drosha, is Hepach from Kuvat Chabad, Hepach the roots from the Rebbe. We were never into politics, and there's no justification what they did. And so I have to be a big machua. And I don't understand how much the Siga lost. Not only him, even a few months later was Galant. We are, Ayid wants to come in 770, we are open for everybody. But giving a platform for just because he holds of not giving back Shtochim, but he has other things which is against the Rebbe Shita. He goes out to Harabais, which is against the Rebbe Shita. Now again, ich kann nicht on his personal. Ich meine aber zu sagen, der Rebbe ist given a Knui, the Rebbe was against Zionist movement. Von anderer Seite, as I mentioned before, is the Rebbe given as he supported in Exesor, Keneged Achzur Shtuchim. The Rebbe supported when there was a war, they should go at the Messig. The Rebbe was again, if a person doesn't learn and he's married and it's a masgeres that he could be erlich in the mitzvah, you should go. He has no justification. So how does this work together? The answer is very simple, which the Rebbe himself said. There was a story, there's a Yid, his name was Chaim Zimmerman. Chaim Zimmerman was a big Ili, and he wrote on the ganze Indian of Kavatari. There was a big machlokes zwischen the contemporary poskim. If you go from there to Japan, where you hold Shabbos, and that's one of the reasons why we are not going to Australia. It's clear, but Hawaii. There's no a fremme heat hot shkarech on Tzazan of Shabbos. That's one of the reasons, because there's a big problem if it's Shabbos or it's Sunday. So therefore, stay away. Now he wrote on the shitta. So there was a big machloikas. The Chazon Ish has one shitta. A lot of shit. There was one shitta which called Mendel Kasha. Mendel Kasha was basically a gerach chosed. He gave out the Torah Shleim, which the Rebbe quotes constantly, and he had a different shitta. Chaim Zimmerman had a third shitta, and the Rebbe's shitta was like the Chaim Zimmerman shitta. And Chaim Zimmerman wrote against Mendel Kasha below the belt, very sharp. And the Rebbe, when he came into the Chiddush, the Rebbe asked him, "Why did you write so personal, so sharp?" So he said that the Rebbe halt as a pekoires, as a koifer. So the Rebbe, ich halt as a koifer, ich halt zan shittas is shittas kfira. None of this on the Kavatarich. The Rebbe holds, and let's make it clear, and that's one of the biggest mistakes which we have. The Chabad today's day was happening. The Rebbe gehalten, es halte de Gile is kfira mamash. Kfira means against Torah. Anybody who says Medina Yisrael as a Medina is a beginning of the Geula, that's a part of the Geula, is Kfira Gumar. Kfira Gumar. The Rebbe explains it. Modern Orthodox. Kfira Gumar. Yeah. Zionism Adusis, the Rebbe halta the shit is Hepach Torah. Why? The Rebbe says the Rambam writes exactly how the Geula is going to come, and according to the Rambam, it cannot be the way it is. The Rambam says clearly, and there's no Rishon which argues with the Rambam that you cannot say, I want to pass my other. So everybody agrees with the Rambam. So you pass against the Rambam, you pass against Torah, and therefore it's Kfira. So the Rebbe Kasha holds that it's a Schalta Gil he wrote, and it's Sefer at Kifa Gdoila.
Nothing to do with the Kavatari.
Not to do with Kavatari. So he says to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, why did you write on the Kavatari so harsh on him? So he said to the Rebbe, the Rebbe halt as a koifer. The Ryan was halt as Chaltagil is Kfira. Another thing, the Rebbe said once, ich bin against Shittas, nicht against Menschen. Over here comes the Nikida. I'm against Shittas, and I'm not against a person. That's why, if you have a Zionist Nusi or a president or Shazar or whatever it should be, ain't personally, on a personal level, something else. Aber ich kann schon mal schon. Wo ist halt, ist halt. Das heißt, ich bin mit Makav, echte Kafra. Anything which had to do with the rhyme, with the ideology of Zionism, what Rabbi Vivi is against. So again, anything which had to do with the rhyme of Zionism, which says, I agree with the rhyme of Zionism, was the Rabbi against. So therefore, flags was ungefragt. I remember the first Kinnis Shlichim I became a Shliach, and they make every year new programs. Then there was a program that all the children from all the cities, by the song, they came in with the flags. They came in the flags with their own this. Israel had no flag. There's no such as Israeli flag. No such thing. I was so poor. I was fascinated. You know, anything which had to do with the Ryan Nazioni as the Medina is going ungefragt. Why? Because Zionism is going echt kvire gemire. Not because of the Schalta de Gila. Because if you ever read, and you shouldn't read it, but if you ever read the Ryan of the forefathers of Zionists, Chetchenish Herzl, he himself was going to the Vatican and said, we are ready to convert everybody, all Jews to Christianity, we should have a state. Kvire gemire. But all the shittas of Ryan Etzioni was that we, Klal Yisrael, with Torah Shkashayches. The Rebbe Shalom gave Torah for Klal Yisrael in order. How do you make a Yid which doesn't have, we're all over in the Golas, how do you connect them together? How do you make a family should hold connect together? So you have to have something to stick together. What is the sticking together? They have a Torah. We don't need the Torah be'etza. We need the Torah only to stick Klal Yisrael together because we are in Gulas. If we have a a Medina, if we have a country, we have a language, we are Kala Goyim by Yisrael, we don't need Torah mitzvahs. Ich darf es nicht schuben. In some zusammen, in some eigen, in some Degel, in some a language, in some a hymnon, a anthem, in some alles, in some Medina. Ich darf steuern, war frozen to wearing garbage. And those again the shit which you could see. You can read, if you read a little bit, what was their shit, was then included as the kid. Ich sage nicht, the Zionism is auch verwassert geworden, you know. Once, by the Megillah Hatzmaot, they didn't want to write Baruch Hashem. So they gemacht abshura with the frimim dus. They wrote serious rule. What serious rule? Serious rule could be zur Starkheit von Israel. It could be der Boine Schleune. So the mindset, and therefore anything which had to do with the Bnei Israel, the Rebbe was against all the way, fully, sharp at us off. We sit with Bnei Israel now as it is as it is like this. The Medina is a de facto over here. It's a mukam which thousands of Yidden got refuge of after the war. As the Rashag asked the Belzeruf, the Friedrich Rebbe, Rashag was Bechai from the Friedrich Rebbe, visited Israel, and he went to Bazich, the Friedrich Rebbe told him he should go Bazich, the Baron Belzer, and ask what is shittus on it. And the Belzeruf answers for the Rashag, which is printed also again in the Belzer sources, that the Friedrich Rebbe, the Belzeruf answers for the Rashag, that the Rebbe Shalom hatten sie gegeben noch in Krieg a battle und sie sich können herupleigen. That means, such Kashim Shai in Zaman in Gulas, in Zaman Vater in Gulas, in our words Gulas, because Gulas between Yidden is the words Gulas. In Zaman Vater in Gulas, such Kashim Shai mit kan Gulas mit kan Gila. The Rebbe Shalom gave us, after the war, we should have a place we should, he gave Kiryas Yoel that you should sit, you can have your own community. He gave kings for the Lubavitcher and Kranis for Lubavitcher, and he gave for Yidden that Yisrael a place which they can sit down in Golos with Allah dus, and we have to watch it because it's Pekich Nefesh. If anything, we lower our standards in Shmira, is Askuna. So therefore, you cannot give back Shtochim because Askuna. They'll come and take us, and they make October 11. Therefore, you have to go in Tzava. If it's Masgeras that you don't learn, and it's a Yiddish Masgeras, okay, you have to watch. Not only in Etzisrol. If in Monroe, if the Goyim wants to come into Monroe and want to kill Yidden, you have to have a Shmira, you have to have a Shomram, you have to have guns, Uzis, and you have to prepare.
We don't always get said about Medina, and you live there. There's a Chokka where you have to go to
not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Kokra din de mechis in Etzisrol is nicht du as a mezach. In Chabad Remu, in Chashmishpet. Din mechis do in Chislurs, in Etzisrol bechal nicht. It's a whole siga, but this is the reason. Because if din in the mechisa, then the Bochum has to also go. The din mechisa also has to. Over Etzisrol? You have to pay if not you go to jail.
If you can get around.
I don't know. Ich will nicht lange in this. You know, let me stop over here. This is a guy. Akapurim so mal lamm zirga ins deine Kinder. Anything with such a team mit Ryan Nationals, mit the exception of the Ryan is Babarem given ugefragt totally. That's why the Kinders of mine is not relevant. Anything which has to do with the symbolity of the Medina flags, anthem. That's what a few years ago they wanted to give a Lubavitcher Shlucha. They wanted to give their Shishur Masua, and the Rebbe went against it. Lipshitz, yeah. What? Before Hayir, was Mechaber to put on a flame. I don't know exactly. Yoina will explain it. A torch.
Every year by the Yom Ha'atzmaut, they give cover to mention that they did something special. They were Madlikim or as the Greeks.
Yeah, and the Machabad given a shlucha, Lipshitz, and the Rebbe says you cannot take it because that's already identifying with this. Anything we should not identify with the Rayon is the Rebbe given aggressor ekonui, because again, as I mentioned, the Rebbe held that Shivul Shvius exists. The Rebbe holds that Schalta de Gil is Kfir Mamash. The Rebbe was, so therefore that was ugefrikt. Anything which has nothing to do with the Rayon. De facto, we have a Medina. That means we have a country, and we have to protect Eden, and we have to be able to learn. We have to put in. People should go in the Knesset because we have to protect Torah mitzvahs. That's Taka in a Mamshula Rebbe Gedalya is a problem because then you have to achrayis mit the machlutas. Aber benoise wir noch eine Sache für der Rebbe gehalten. We als Chabad are not into politics. This is a very important thing. And that was the biggest mistake why we bring the Chavra Knesset and Sam to talk, because you identify with a party. You identify with the Dus. Ich kann schon nicht daran in the Heilige Zionism, but the Rebbe was against politics. The very few problems it makes for Futzes Hamayunas. The one time which we went b'tzivui b'shlichus from the Rebbe with the Gide, we had a lot of problems. But then when we got the Rebbe, we have to go because Kavod Chassidus. But we should bring people which is hepech in the shitta and hepech in the zach, which in identify with a party is hepech the kavuna from the Rebbe. So my do not gedenken. So therefore, when it comes to going protests against giving back Stochem, and if you want to go, one thing, but holding an Israeli flag, why? Hast du recht? In the all interviews which Lubavitch Ingelat doing reden, man gemacht der verwischacht Kili, as rige im Stuche meint, dass Medina Israel, in a lot of people do not happen this division. Happen nicht der heilig is hepech gewonnen von Rebbe, maybe the sat maruf. If anybody wants to hear clearer the Rebbe Shitta, there is a lot of letters which I hope one day, let's say, in print. But there's Rabbi Yoel's famous 2 letters which he wrote. It's called Igres Man Chucham. It's printed. Shloiber Shisoy. I had to have it already 40 years. But there was a group of Pur Choshvingelite, which ungefähr from Bechai from Rabbi Yoel. And they printed it, and it was printed 4 or 5 Madiras with additions. Rabbi Yoel was against it, but who asks him? And it's good that you didn't ask him. It's very important letters. And over there you can have, yeah, exactly. And over here you can have a lot of clarity of the Rebbe Shitta. So do that man gedenk noch mal. The Rebbe is Pikir Nefesh. Helfen Jiden. A Soldat, was is gefallen, was is gefallen, oder was is injured, darf man immer Karls andere machen, man mitzvahs. All these things, weil gestanden la mishmet, fahre ich Jiden. Anything which comes mit rein is strife. Now another thing, one more thing. Before I get to the punchline. Chabad is not identified with politics. Bechlal. Chabad is against the Rebbe Tzuzut etliche Mol. There was a Shaul Schiff which asked the Rebbe why shouldn't he was Namatzoifer. Yeah? He asked the Rebbe why shouldn't Chabad participate in the world Zionist movement years ago. And then the Rebbe answered him Denikida. Chabad can nicht sich identifying with a political move. So therefore, he wanted the Rebbe should come out, and as a guy vote, more from deputies. Automatically, then you can make a change. And the Rebbe says Chabad cannot come out because that's politics. In the skirv rechoikim, in the nishkan politics, we don't want to get identified else skirv rechoikim. This is what the Rebbe answered.
I think what the Rebbe used also to say is, when you go with one party, you're going against the other parties. Could be. Weiß ich. Der Rebbe ist gehalten, sich identified in der Rausung der Rebbe geämpft. So now, anything which has to do, Chabad cannot come out in public, and anything which has to do with politics, because we don't identify. Benoist, was vieles ist ein Kusche. It's a happy von der Rebbe Schitt, dass die steht von Kirche Rechoikim. In der Indien ist Kirche Rechoikim, but not Zahn of politics. So now let's just finish up regarding today's day. Should you vote or could you vote in the World Zionist Organization or not? Now, first of all, let's make it clear. There's no such a thing as a Chabad Ruf should come out and say, you should go vote. It's no, as I mentioned, just. Even as an issue, there's no such a thing as you should say you should go vote, because automatically you mix together Chabad and politics, which the Rebbe wrote before the Shol Shiv, as Geheimnischters. But somebody asked me privately, could I go and vote for them? What should be the answer? So now it's like this. There are some Rabbonim which want to say that you cannot vote because you have to agree to the platform of the Jerusalem platform, and the Jerusalem platform is Sapach HaTorah. I went over the new Jerusalem platform this year. They made it before the election they make new platform. I went over carefully 3 or 4 times. I don't see anything over there which you cannot. Rabbi Yoel, they asked Rabbi Yoel, one of the questions they asked Rabbi Yoel, the Rebbe hold that there's all voting for the Knesset. So when you vote for the Knesset, automatically you are voting that the Chavra Knesset has to give a, I don't know if it's swearing or giving a munim, a pledge allegiance
to the state and their laws. So how could you do it? And Rabbi Gedalya got the masber that anything which you could say on two ways, it could be a pledge allegiance to Eretz Yisrael, and to the chikim means chikai, Torah Eretz Yisrael, maser, stremas, maser. So whenever it's not clear cut, is in shluka. Yeah, Lamasa. If you go through the Jerusalem, I don't see things which is clear cut, which is a problem. I don't see amazing problems clear cut. But my little person wants to go. Ich sehe nicht kein größer issue damit. Benoisov, there's a letter which surfaced lately from the Rebbe, and one of Rabbi Bronstein, which he was involved heavily in the World Zionist Organization, asked the Rebbe the same question: why don't Chabad or make more Fruma Yidden come in and take over? Because we have to understand one thing: what is the World Zionist? World Zionist Organization is a nothing. Is an organization which is a fundraising organization. They fundraise over $1 billion a year, which is sent to Eretz Yisrael. And they divide it for Ken Kemas, what to give land for. There's 4 or 5 things which they give. So it's a money making. And if you have more the positions, or America, you could give, you have more influence on the government. So therefore, he asked the Rebbe, why shouldn't you move? A lot of Frumid should come in, not Chabad, but why shouldn't a lot of? The Rebbe answered, will it make a difference? That means, you'll have a couple of from Eden who's going to vote. Will it make a difference? So to merit, you have the Reform, the Conservative, a big community. Then, so a student got 100,000 Eden, let's say, which you it's not as we shop the Rebbe. Now my question was the first thing I'm in it. What's about with the whole project, the Jerusalem project? The Rebbe sagt nicht kein Wort, dass du ein Problem mit seiner... In der Rebbe hat sich geschämt zu sagen, als mit Afchaspenen, that you believe in that, then it's Kfira. Du sagst der Rebbe a practical Sach. And it was right. Years ago, there was no point of pushing in Jewish from the members, because it didn't make a difference. Nowadays, when the Reform and the Conservative are very, very, very schwach, getting schwacher and schwacher, the Fruma have a big chance to come in. It's interesting. I don't know exactly the politics, but last time the Gida was heavily, you should vote. This year they backed out. I don't know why.
I don't understand. It's the changes they made in the Jerusalem project.
Look at the changes with the major Jerusalem. It's much more Favasa than it was one day.
No, there are certain things that the idea that you have to support because of the whole fight that's going on with the Bachram, and they're saying you have to support everyone, so that's it's a clash. Because one of the changes they made in the Jerusalem project that you have to support, you should support all youth who go to the IDF, and which sounds including Bachram. Okay. And because of the current fight that they're having right now with the
okay, Kansas, that was the reason. Yeah. But last time that Giddes was about in power. But soft today's day when the Nishnadus nowadays was lately a report that there was a lot of Pashkeville in Israel that you shouldn't go vote for Jerusalem. It's Zionism, it's Zionism. They realized they got information that who pays for this? The conservative movement. They don't want the Fruma should come in and take over as they do everywhere when they come into community and they eventually take over, yeah? Which is going to happen anyways. But Akapunam, so what did they do? They haben sich umgetan in the Carter clothing and they write, Chaz v'shulam, so therefore, they don't want it. So again, should any Rav in Chabad come out, you should go with them? No. Rav Chabad mishtechnische politics and cannot say clearly that you should go vote. We stay away. A person for itself, a problem to vote, I don't see a big problem, but I feel since as the Agida backed out and a lot of Fremen backed out, is wieder do the Rebbe's shitta, which the Rebbe said, would you make a difference or not? I'm not sure that our vote will make a big difference, because last time, 5 years ago, the Fruma Oilem was heavily involved in the elections. This time, I don't know if it makes a difference. So that's up to everybody.
The nomen of the organization is Zionism.
Sivus? World Zionist Organization? No, Zionist wat man gekend aus Schleim mitgebracht mit dem Tuschif. Okay, mit dem suche ich der. Sie kennen nicht an, als alle Babes Ruhe, sie geben ab Sack, as you should go vote for them.